stand by for action.
Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave Milner. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy, and I want to welcome you to part 2 of this episode of the Unpleasant Blind Guy on EDL Radio. Now remember, if you want to contact me with comments, questions, show suggestions, Awesome American suggestions, I'm available at UBG Contact on Twitter, or I can also be found as Dave Milner or Aggedor, that's Aggedor, on Mublet, the Tea Party Community, Spreely, Minds, MeWe, or Gab. Now let's begin. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the English Defense League radio show with your host, Jeff, Heavy Metal Spider Mitchell. and I'm Dave, Heavy Metal Milner. Yeah, we got got the leather and chains on and everything. Yeah, because we both like a bit of rock and roll.
Look, Dave, you could do it if you like. You personal life, brother.
Hey, if it's metal, it's
I
metal.
believe
it's
in
good,
live and let live, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, so do I. It's just too bad that the people we're going to talk about don't believe in it. Now, I said we were going to do this. Now, this this is a great resource. I keep touting them as a resource, and they're a great resource. I'm talking about the religionofpeace.com. You can find things in there about Islam, all sorts of stuff about Islam, and it's a great learning tool that I like to use. They've got. Let me just read you these. These subheads, these topics that they have: human rights, women's rights, moral issues, Sharia. That's it says Islamic law, but it's the Islamic system, just as Jeff says. The myths of Islam, the games that Muslims play, and Muslim opinion polls. Yeah. And they compare Islam to Christianity. 10 reasons why Islam is not a religion of peace. And, here you go, Jeff, Islamophobia. And we've done a lot of shows, and we've taken bits out of this because they get into this and they drill down into Islam, into the writings, as Avi Yemeni said, that the Mohammedans live by. Okay, this is stuff out of the Quran. It's stuff out of the life of Muhammad, their prophet, and it's stuff that Muhammad claims he was told by an angel. In a cave or something like that. Over a shortwave radio or something. I don't know. Just whatever he pulled out of his rear end. Anyway, okay, guys. Now this particular one we're going to talk about today is torture. All right. Now, what does Islam teach about torture? Now, and Jeff and I have little pre-show meetings, guys, and we had one yesterday. We were talking about this stuff, and one of the things he said just came right out of one of these things. So, folks, this is the real stuff. This isn't just us talking about this here. Okay. Now, torture is sanctioned in Islam when there is a reason for it. Okay, and their reasons for doing it are pretty wide. Okay, now the first one we're going to read out of here, okay, is from the Quran. The Quran 5:33. The punishment for those who wage war against Allah and His Messenger, strive to make mischief strive to make mischief in the land. In other words, people who tell the truth about Islam or give Islam a problem. Okay, I'm going to continue. Is only this: that they should be murdered or crucified, or their hands and their feet should be cut off on opposite sides. Now, that's the start, guys. Here's another golden oldie from the Quran. Quran 8:21. Remember, thy Lord inspired the angels with the message. I am with you. Give firmness to the believers. I will instill terror into the hearts of the unbelievers. Smite ye above their necks, and now this is important, guys. Smite all their fingertips off them. Smite all their fingertips off them. Now I'm going to pause for a second, Jeff, because you remember, brother, a few years ago. This was in Nairobi in a mall. I believe this is where this was. The Muhammadans there took a bunch of hostages, and because one of them, the ones that did not know Muhammad's mother's name or some crap like that, they cut off their fingertips. Because this is what they do when they take hostages. A lot of times is they'll torture them.
That's how they're instructed to do their warfare, torture, isn't it, Dave?
Mm-hmm.
Carry on, please.
Yeah. Well, sure. Well, no. I just wanted to give you a chance to respond there a little bit, and you're right. You're right. And we just read that. Guys. Okay. Now, here's another one out of the Quran.
It's in their horrible book and their deeds and the surahs, etc., ladies and gentlemen. So what we're reading, what you're hearing, is actually coming from that horrible, despicable book that we talk about. I'm sorry, Dave. I didn't take it too much.
No, it's all right. It's all right. People need to be reminded. Okay, this is out of the Quran, 48:29. Let's see. Muhammad is a messenger of Allah, and those with him are hard against the disbelievers and merciful among themselves. And that kind of works if you're in that particular flavor of Islam, but if you're not and they consider you an apostate, then you get messed up. Now, here's another one. Now, this one goes to a statement, Jeff, that you made to me yesterday, talking about how compassion is pretty much beaten out of Mohammedans from a young age. All right?
Yep.
And a lot of folks may not believe that. They may think, that's not true. You're just being a hater. Okay. Here it is, guys. Quran 24,
they're being the haters.
verse 2.
It's not us, is it? They're being the haters the way that they're... Sorry,
Yeah. Quran 24, verse 2. The women and the men guilty of adultery or fornication, flog each of them with 100 strokes. That means whipping them, guys. And now this is the important thing. Let not compassion move you. Not only is physical torture prescribed as punishment for moral crime between consenting adults, but believers are told to suppress their natural urge for human compassion. And this gets, guys, I wanted to say, into the animal. You see this, why these young Mohammedans are allowed to torture dogs and cats to death. And you can find that stuff on YouTube. Jeff and I we can't watch it anymore. It's just horrific. And they do that to donkeys and things of that nature. But that's why, so that they can teach them not to be compassionate. Because if you can torture an animal to death, then you can torture a human being to death, and it's quite okay. Now I'm going to read down here a little bit more, guys, because this again is important. Now this is okay. Here we go. Let's see. How Allah feels about non-Muslims naturally determines the attitude of devout Muslims. In the Quran, Muhammad explicitly uses Allah's hatred of unbelievers to motivate his people to jihad. Okay? Now, and guys, remember, it is the devout Mohammedans that usually will wind up taking over an area. Even if you have peaceful Mohammedans, and there are peaceful Mohammedans out there, even if you have peaceful Mohammedans in an area, sooner or later, and this happens everywhere they go, sooner or later, the radicals will come in and take over. And that's the ones we're talking about here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. This here is from the Quran, the Quran 9, verse 73. O Prophet, strive against the disbelievers and the hypocrites. Be harsh with them. Their ultimate abode is hell, a hopeless journey's end. that just points up the general attitude of the Mohammedans towards people who don't believe the same stuff they do. Don't you? Now, now let's go to the Hadiths and the Siras. Okay, and I'm going to come down. I'm going to find some short ones here. I'm going to read the really long ones here. We'll find some short ones here to read and maybe comment on a little bit. Right? The Sahih Muslim 17, 4196. A married man confesses that he has adultery 4 times as required, and Muhammad orders him planted in the ground and pelted with stones. According to the passage, the first several stones caused such pain that he tried to escape and was dragged back. Okay, let's see. Now here's another one from the Sahih Bukhari 11:626. The Prophet said, "No prayer is harder for the hypocrites than the fair and the Isha prayers, and if they knew the reward for these prayers at their respective times, they would certainly present themselves in the mosques, even if they had to crawl." See, this is Muhammad wanting people to go to the mosque. All right. The Prophet added, certainly I decided to order okay, I'm going to try and say this, guys. The Muaddim, that's the call maker. That's the guy who stands up in the minaret and goes, and all that mess 5 times a day. Okay, to pronounce Igana and order a man to lead the prayer and then take a fire flame to burn all those who had not left their houses so far for the prayer along with the houses. So as far as Muhammad is concerned, if you don't go to the mosque, well, you get your house burned down. That's a nice one, isn't it? Yeah. Here's another one. This is from the Ibn. Let's see, Ishaq 734. When Muhammad's favorite wife, Aisha, who was 6 years old when he married her and 9 years old when he had sex with her, was accused of adultery, he launched an investigation that included the brutal interrogation of a female slave. So the apostle called Buraria, or excuse me, guys, I'm going to try this one more time. Burayaya, all right, to ask her, and Ali got up and gave
tonight, Dave, by the sounds of it.
Tell me about it. Yeah, and Ali got up and gave her a violent beating, saying, "Tell the apostle the truth." Okay, so this wasn't just that a slave was being questioned, and by the way, there's still slavery in Islamic countries, just for that. But she was beaten. Okay, now let's read down a little bit more, guys. Well, actually, we're going to stop here for just a second, Jeff. So far, what are your feelings listening to all this stuff about torture?
Well, I think the thing that if you in a war scenario, if you capture, say, an Islamist or anything like that, they're given human rights, Geneva Protection of Geneva Convention. But in the eyes of Islam, they don't believe. They'll call for it if they're captured. But in their world, if we're captured, that does not apply to the kuffar, the infidel. They're totally, without any sort of compassion whatsoever. They don't believe in it. It's a sign of weakness for them if they did anything other than that. And that's what their Quran teaches them, to be non-compassionate towards the infidel or whoever it is you've captured. And that's why they don't talk. They talk about how. See, it shows you they talk about how to torture people, what to go about, to cut people's fingers off and behead them and to crucify them. I mean, it's quite obvious. This is a handbook how to kill people in the most horrific way. I mean, I don't actually go into burning people in cages exactly, but they use every form of that makes the human look at this and think, oh my God, are these human to do it? No, they're not. They're beyond that. They've lost that capacity to call themselves human. If you look at something, it's like the gates of hell with these people. That's what they're like. How do we call them people, Dave? They're beyond the word people, human being. I've just got to let you know, Dave. I just wanted to
go ahead.
In case the script goes up, the chat goes up. We've got Vorpal Bites joining us. He said hello to the room, Dave. So I just wanted to give you a heads up.
Hello and welcome, and welcome. Everyone, please. If you want to come into SHR Media, if you want to come into blogtalkradio.com and search for the English Defense League radio show. You just put EDL radio up in the white bar that's up there at the top center, and you'll eventually find the show, and you can get in there and get in the chat room and you can engage in some interesting chat, guys. Yeah. Welcome aboard.
Can I just
go ahead?
Continue with the first little bit of thing that he said is he said, I do not care if you feel they are peaceful. This is the Muslims he talk about. I disagree. I say all Muslims are dangerous, for even your peaceful ones contribute to the jihadis. Makes every single Muslim guilty. And actually, I agreed with this statement. I said, I agree with you, all right. And he says, where are the dissenters? They don't even have people talking down the violence. And I just said, you tell me, Vorpal. He always makes some good points. Vorpal, he's normally bang on, isn't he?
Yeah.
Things that he said, I've got to admit. And they call that controversial because I see what Volt's talking about, and I agree. And I know, there's good and bad that these people contribute. And the ones that don't say anything when things are going on, they're just as bad, and we know they are. There's not, when I talk this moderate,
I don't disagree
there's no such thing as moderate Islam, is there, Dave? But me, Dave's often talking about there's nothing. It's just Islam.
Okay, I don't disagree there, Jeff. I will say though that there are some Muslims that they're kind of minos, as someone who used to be associated with the show used to call them. They're Muslims in name only. They might go to the mosque and all that stuff, but they don't. They're not into all this Allahu Akbar stuff. Trouble is, though, when the radicals and the ones, as you said, who keep their mouths shut do show up, they wind up getting inundated, and it's you're going to go after the kafir, or we're going to come in and do horrible stuff to your family right in front of you, like rape your wife and your daughters and beat up your son right in front of you. And if you don't get the message, we'll come back tomorrow night and do it. So at that point, Jeff, if you're a man with a family and you love your family, you're really stuck between a rock and a hard place. And that's why, in every place where these Mohammedans settle in, eventually the few minos that there are do pretty much disappear because they have to now. And one of the points,
something that you said there, Dave, that makes me think. I heard someone talking the other day that Muslims are leaving in droves. We don't hear these stories too much. It's something they suppress. But this is what I've been hearing quite on a regular basis now, that they're leaving in droves. They're moving away from this cult of death. They know they've I don't know, maybe people talk to them, say, if you studied, check it out. You're not really, and maybe some of them, they've had their eyes open to what it really is about. And maybe that's why we're seeing such a flight from this cult of death. because maybe you got to make a life change. You got to do something. You got to change your name. You got to maybe move to one side of the country to the other, and keep a low profile. But if you don't want to believe in this cult of death, and because as we all know, anybody that studies that horrible, disgusting book of theirs, it says there, Dave. I will say this, but it says no Muslim will pass over the hellfires. No Muslim. Do you understand that out there, all you lefties and all you Muslims that follow this death cult, that you're not going anywhere? What if you think you're going to go straight to paradise? The only time that that'll happen is if you become a so-called martyr, if you believe in that. But that is it. None of you will pass over the hellfires, because it said so in your book. It says so.
Yeah.
What's the matter with these people, Dave? Don't they understand that? They're doomed whatever they bloody do.
Well, part of it is the where they live, but also before I read another thing here, I'll just say to Vorp's point about keeping quiet when the violence goes on. I proved that in that conservative bite that we still have in studio, and once in a while I play it. I proved it. I proved it with the numbers. I mean, when you have demonstrations against violence that are supposed to involve Muslims, you don't get very many of them showing up. But boy, if you draw a picture of Muhammad, you get thousands of them coming out of the woodwork and showing up for that. But guys, Jeff, listeners, I'm going to read one more. Now this one plumbs the depths. I have to say this, Jeff. This one is. You were talking about how the Quran can be a manual for torture. All right. Well, check this one out, brother. And audience, check this one out. This is from the Sahih Bukhari 52:261. Muhammad had their hands and feet cut off. Then he ordered 4 nails, which were heated and passed over their eyes, and they were left in the Hara. That's a rocky land near Medina. They asked for water, and nobody provided them with water till they died. Muhammad had 2 killers put to death, not in the way of an eye for an eye, but in a more agonizing manner. See also the Sahih Bukhari 4:234 and the Sahih Muslim 16:41-31. They were caught and brought to him. I'm not going to say that bit. And he commanded about them, and thus hands and feet were cut off, and their eyes were gouged, and then they were thrown in the sun until they died. So there you go, Jeff. How do you like that little nibble?
Well, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't shock me, because we know how depraved and how barbaric they are. And there's other stories, Dave, of the way they torture people. The thing, burying people, whole families alive, villages alive, and being thrown into a ground and then covered over. This is often, some of the brutality that went on in Syria. We know exactly, those that guy, or 2 of them that was had chains around them, soldiers, and they poured petrol over them and set them alight. I mean, man, the inhumanity there speaks volumes. And the guy in the cage that time, it shows you. But I think Bites in a confrontational mood this evening. I hope you don't mind if I just want to, because I don't want to think I'm ignoring him, because I'm not like that. And he is a friend of the show. So he says, I totally disagree again from what we were saying earlier, The older generation of Muslims are willing to defeat the infidels by outbreeding them, but the younger generations have embraced the violence and their numbers are growing. So I don't know if we're in total disagreement, with you. I don't totally disagree with what you're saying, Paul, but yeah, I mean, you make a lot of sense of what you said, but I don't want to debate you over it because I quite agree with a lot of things you've said there. I don't know if Dave wants to agree with you or disagree, but Dave, your thoughts with what Vorpabites are saying this evening?
Well, look, we're constantly berated here because they say of us that we don't acknowledge that there are Muslims that don't go in for all the violence and everything. And whatever Vorp says, there really are Muslims like that. We're talking about the Ahmadis, the Alawites, people of that nature. Okay, and the thing is, though, that they are of such perishingly small amounts in the grander scheme, the grander population of Mohammedans, that it is pretty small, but it is there. So not only do I, at least as an individual, acknowledge that they're there, but I also say why it is that eventually they wind up having to go along with the very people Vorpalbite is talking about. And I agree with the bits he's talking about concerning the older Mohammedans wanting to outbreed everybody and the younger ones embracing the violence. We see this in pretty much every generation. So I do that, Vorp and listeners.
If you don't mind, can I continue with what he followed on with? Do you mind, Dave? And then... we can. I don't mind. It's
man.
just that.
Let me. Well, no. Let me just say this real quick. Okay. The only reason that I say that though is to counter the lefties that are going to listen to this show and say that crap that they're going to say. So I'm acing that out ahead of time. So please go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. No. Sorry, Dave. No. I agree with you that we have got them out there ready to. Jump all over us. I don't give a shit myself personally, but he also goes on to say, accept the truth. Well, he says there can never be peaceful coexistence with Islam. Something, I mean, it's not accept the truth. I think
Never
me and Dave is already accepted. That is the fact anyway, Vorpalbite. And he says, sorry, dude, I don't debate, I pass judgment. He also goes on to say, and those Muslims that don't go in for violence still support the terrorists. They will send their religious teeth to Saudi Arabia HQ of all Islamic terrorism. He goes on to say then they are all still guilty of violence, even if on the surface it appears they are non-violent. And I can't really disagree with some of these sentiments there, Dave. I mean, he's pretty spot on, isn't he? But I can understand that, there is can be a bit of a conflict with some other people that might be listening, but it's just too bad. We talk about issues.
And that's what I feel, too. Yeah. Jeff, that's how I feel too, brother. That's how I feel too.
Yeah.
I honestly don't care if someone doesn't like me for what I say and all that kind of thing. And no, I don't debate either. But I do acknowledge that there are a few, a very small few, that do everything they can not to do that. And you can't. I can't go on and talk about this stuff without including mention of them. Again, it's an extremely small minority among the Mohammedans, and most of them will do exactly what Vorp is saying. They'll give their money to the mosque or whatever, and or whatever Muslim Brotherhoodish or other Islamic organization, and we know that all eventually winds up in either in funding direct terrorism or migration or something else. Okay, but I'm not going to get all bent out of shape about one or two, small percentages of the population. I'd say maybe about 10%. The nonviolent. I'm not going to get into a big hairy debate about it. I'm just going to say yes, lefties, they do exist, but there's a reason why they never prosper, and why the other ones take over. Now, Jeff, I want to read. Let's read a little bit more here before we close out this bit of conversation. It's been fairly good, man. This is Abu Dawood 494. In addition to the right of men to beat their wives over disobedience, hey, if you're a Muslim, you get to beat your wife. It says so right there in the Hadith and the Seerahs. Okay, are to be let's see. Okay, all right. Children are to be beaten as well. See, so you can beat your kids too. Isn't that great? That is if they don't pray.
Them in the madrasas doing it, Dave. Openly swinging children about and smacking them around their heads, and they're supposed to be the so-called teachers. My goodness me. Talk about beat the hell out of them.
Right.
That's what they do. We've seen it, Dave. They can't deny it because we've seen it so many times. Evil, sadistic bitches. Sorry for the bitches, but, well, anyway.
And that is it for this time. Next time, part 3. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Goodbye.
The Unpleasant Blind Guy is copyright 2019. Anno Domini. Now for Dave's Canes. Extras that help you navigate the new media world.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
The new show on the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny. On shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday. Live and direct on the SHR Media Network. shrmedia.com. Be there.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.